I know that, but I'm talking about class.
Do you want to tell me when for the time? Did you know that the largest nonprofit organization in Texas is located here in Houston? This organization is in the top 1% of charitable groups in the nation and serves over 500,000 people every year. Since 1907, the United Way agency, Neighborhood Centers Incorporated, or NCI, has contributed to the Houston community and made everyone's life here better. Hi, my name is Clark Newman, and we're here to tell you about the latest new idea coming out of NCI, a new pre-made jarred salsa known as Good+Hot. Before we get further into the product, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what NCI does. NCI's impact can be illustrated by their 4 areas of service: community-based initiatives, public sector solutions, choices in education, and sheltering armed senior services. Within each service category, there's a wide variety of initiatives ranging from education, tax preparation, job placement, child care and veteran services, senior health assistance, and many more. NCI exists to keep our region a place of opportunity for everyone who's working towards a better life. The dynamic team at NCI is always looking for ways to expand the reach within the community, and this could not be made possible without the dedicated volunteers, large company sponsors, and individual donors. In order to expand this reach a little more, NCI is bringing Good+Hot salsa to the marketplace. This will generate non-traditional revenue streams and increase our brand awareness to the community in which we serve. Good+Hot salsa is a great tasting blend of tomatillos, onions, and peppers, which serves as a great appetizer and snack. Not only that, but every dollar of profit generated by Good+Hot flows directly into the services that NCI provides. These 2 aspects encompass the overall value we offer to our customers. Good+Hot salsa enables the everyday consumer to contribute to and connect with their community through the simple purchase of a great tasting product. Good+Hot's brand starts with the recipe's origin. Carlos Soto, a native Houstonian, entered his grandmother's recipe into a salsa competition held at one of NCI's community centers in 2014. The judges and attendees loved his salsa so much that he won the competition, and the leadership at NCI decided to take his great tasting opportunity to the market. The pre-made salsa industry is currently a $907 million market. This is a 17% increase since 2013. Market research explains this increase with the rising Hispanic population and consumer trends towards specialty and spicy foods. With the combination of these consumer trends and demographic changes, salsa's popularity is expected to rise even further in the coming years. Our target market is the Houston population, and salsa sales will remain in this region for the first several years of our business. Our motive behind staying in the region from which NCI operates is to directly affect the customers that live in the community we serve.
Hi, my name is Cody Plump, and I'm going to be telling you about our competition. When walking into your local grocery store, you'll find a large variety of salsa brands. The market for jarred salsa is heavily saturated with salsa brands ranging from large-scale big company brands to small, local, and somewhat non-rememberable other brands. The inability to compete on price and shelf space has limited smaller companies and left them to compete with quality, fresher ingredients, and the geographic location. In other words, their local roots. Amongst these small companies tend to be run self-made, run by families, and their histories range from decades past, such as Miss Renfro's and Rights of Texas Salsa, which has just been made in the recent years.
Good+Hot will establish.
Good+Hot will establish our brand by telling our story. Our promise to our customers is that with every dollar spent on a jar of salsa, will go directly back into the community to make a great impact. Not only that, but the great tasting recipe was made in Houston on its own.
What other bigger brands?
Amongst the bigger brands, as they are a concern, we're mainly focusing on competing with much of the smaller ones. We plan to effectively communicate NCI's brand to compete against these smaller companies, and also use strategic relationships that I've built through my grocery store experience at HEB.
Good+Hot will be promoted?
Good+Hot will be promoted with our label, our social media platforms,
Website and
excuse me,
direct-
label, social media platforms, our website, and direct-to-consumer sales. These direct-to-consumer sales will allow for us to interact with the customers, receive feedback, and further kind of gauge where the company will go. Black Sheep PR has come up with the label for NCI, and what they're trying to do is really encompass the brand of the salsa, but also at the same time tie in what NCI does as a whole, so you can see what the community can benefit. Furthermore, in the first 3 years, we plan to do these direct-to-consumer sales, like I said, by interacting with the community, and we're going to host these at many of the event centers that NCI holds. Currently, NCI has 70 event centers that we plan on outreaching. We may not go into all 70, but there are a top 10 that we hope that we can enter into, and in the first 3 years generate a lot of sales, create the brand awareness, and make a great impact on the Houston community.
My name is Joshua Jackson, and I'll be talking about our pricing strategy. To start, our cost is $3.37 per jar, and that includes the co-packer, labeling and drying the salsa, leaving it for our distributor. We will sell the salsa to our distributor for $4.35, giving us a 22% margin, and that distributor will sell to retailers like H-E-B and Kroger for $4.95. That distributor will have a 12% margin, and the retailers will sell at a final price of $7 to the end consumer, giving the retailers a margin of 30%. And that is strictly for retail. So as we look at our financials for the next year, for the first 2 years, we will sell NCI direct to consumer at 10 of the 70 event centers that NCI owns and operates. This is at a higher margin of 44% because we sell the bottle for the jar of salsa for $6 directly to the consumer. In year 3, you see a pretty dramatic dip in our revenue and our margin, and that is because we stopped selling at NCI events and we move into Central Market, which is the testing ground for H-E-B for an entire year. Throughout that year, we also go into 4 or 5 Krogers halfway through the calendar year, and the only time we sell the Good+Hot salsa outside of retailers will be once every 2 months at large community events throughout Houston, like an Hot Festival or Renaissance Festival or anything of that nature. Once we move to year 4, you see that there's a pretty large increase in margin as well as revenue. That is because we move out of 1 Central Market location and move into 65 of the 77 H-E-Bs in the Houston area. Halfway through that year as well, we moved from 4 to 5 Kroger locations into 65 total out of the 108 Kroger locations in the Houston area. We also continue to sell at these 1 every 2 months large Houston events, which is higher margin, and our cost decreased from $3.37 a bottle to $3.05 a bottle due to the large increase in volume. Lastly, in year 5, our cost decreased once more to $2.80 a bottle, and we are fully saturated in Kroger and H-E-B with no more sales of Good+Hot salsa outside of retailers. Once we move next to our key partners, we have Zachary Cousins and Louis McKinney, both former students who have taken products from ideas to retail shelves. Zachary adds value as well by being our distributor for Central Market, and that's a relationship that's already locked in at a 12% rate. And Louis has connected us to Consolidated Mills, which is a very large co-packer in the Houston area. It's been around for more than 50 years, very respected, and can handle all the volume that we'll have. And lastly, Paul Galvani is a professor here at the University of Houston in the Bible College of Business with over 30 years of marketing experience. He's also Vice President of Marketing at Riviana Food Group, which is a large multi-million-dollar company. Now we move toward our team. With Clark Newman having direct-to-consumer marketing experience, Cody bringing an extensive network of grocery and retail connections, as well as supply chain experience, and myself bringing operational and sales experience. And then we have Ray Chong, who is the Vice President of NCI. He's also the Chief Strategy Officer with over 25 years of food experience and an MBA from Stanford, as well as a bachelor's degree from Rice. So he's very knowledgeable in everything we're doing with the food industry. And lastly, we move to NCI support. As you can see, we have the support of brands like Chevron, Shell, Wells Fargo, United Way. So there's a large community backing as well as a personal community, individual backing as well. So lastly, we'll open the floor for questions about the salsa for good.
So what validation do you have for the $7 price point?
With the validation we have is actually we do have our Valenti students were kind enough to give us a cyber scan that has the price points of all of the salsa we'll be directly competing against. Rice in Texas is actually at a higher price point than that, and that's the most premium brand. But there are brands like the Peso Tostitos that are $4.50 to $5. The issue with those smaller price points is that they're usually large mass market salsa, which doesn't have quality or taste, and also the fact that ours is.
Oh, I didn't hear what your target demographic is, like what age range, because if I'm thinking, oh, I love salsa, but I don't know if I would pay $7 for salsa.
Yeah, the reason we validate that is because there are people that do pay $7 to $9 for salsa for the same ounce jar, and that does not come with the fact that every dollar you spend goes right back to the Houston community.
How much does a jar of paste sell for? I've never paid attention.
It's like $4.50 to $5.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
The issue with that is also the fact that that is, how do you put it, generic, chunky, right? I hate to use this, but they call it white man salsa. And they say that because it doesn't have anything to it, right? It's tomato paste and sauce. But when you talk to the food industry, they say that. They do say that. So this salsa is a recipe that's been handed down from a grandmother. This sauce has a lot more taste to it, and as far as premium salsa goes.
Jesus.
How do you guys tie in that story of it being attached to an actual recipe and
Right.
the brand? Does the brand say anything about it?
It's on the label. It actually says "made in Houston" and "from Houston," so that kind of hints at the recipe's origins. But also, what we'll really have to put a push towards is those social media outlets, and by highlighting actually Carlos Soto, like you saw him at that picture up on the brand side was him at the 75th anniversary celebration. So having him present at different events like that and kind of voicing him through the social media is the way we'll be able to communicate where the recipe came from.
I may have misunderstood something, but when you put up that one slide that showed the various cascading margins based on the channels that you're distributing, your margin showed at 22%.
Yes.
Then you went to your financials and you showed 44%.
Oh, yeah, so the difference with that is that's retail only. That pricing strategy is for retail only.
Oh, so that sheet's just retail?
Year 1 to 2 is
This previous
direct to
sheet was.
consumer. So this sheet is just retail. So it's 22% at retail for us.
So
But direct to consumer,
So my question would be, and I think Cody would probably be the best person to answer this from an HEB point of view, put up the margins again, the other one? Is that enough margin for a grocer or for the various channels of distribution to make? Because they look kind of light on all that, but that may be the case in food, and I don't know the answer to that.
For a grocer, it's right about 30%, and they stick that way. For I believe 12% is the one you got from Zach, right?
I talked to Zach directly about the distribution. He said 12 to 18 is normal. If we
Okay.
have to do the deal, you do 12.
And then what about, my next question would be, you're a 501c3?
Yes.
So is the goal here to generate profit for the 501c3, or is the goal here to employ people or do something other than make a profit, a true profit for the 501c3?
the end goal is to eventually make a profit off of salsa. Hopefully we'll be breaking even, very soon, and then the profits are going to be used towards other things. So whether or not salsa expands into something more where you can employ people, regardless, the whole point is to impact the community. And it's salsa will be sort of this communication channel to say who NCI is, so that you can take home this jar of salsa, read the label, and say, this is where this comes from, this is who this is, basically. So I think both.
Okay.
And that's another reason we chose to go retail. We get a lot more coverage and expansion rather than doing it ourselves for NCI at a higher margin.
Gotcha.
You guys form your own 501c3 to develop and market this, or you're?
It's all through NCI. That's all.
I guess, Black Sheep probably knows better than I do, but there's not much on your label of the jar that even really promotes local, Texas, all that stuff. It says that, but I would think, if you guys are going for Central Market and HEB, those stores are only in Texas. And one of the biggest things with that is, we talked about with Mountain King last year, is getting the point across that for Texas, or by Texans for Texans, because Texans kind of have an inflated ego, and if something's made in Texas, they're going to buy it.
No, that's a good point. And as far as the labeling goes and the messaging on the labeling, it's sort of that. We can give opinions on it, and we'll definitely pass that along. But it's something that I agree with you. It definitely should have a wider or a bigger place on the label that it is local and from Texas. But as of now, that's sort of there's that one, and then the one other one, which is the one you see up there.
Okay.
I might have missed something kind of building off what you said. I know at Whole Foods, they will typically, in the salsa section at one of those foods. It actually had a section that was Texas salsas, and it was just Texas salsas, and they were $3 to $4 more than white man salsas. But they also had that stamp, you know, kind of
The
like.
Go Texan logo, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that we'll definitely be looking into marketing-wise, because once you have that Go Texan logo on there, everyone sort of recognizes that and feels for that. And it's actually a pretty small fee to get a Go Texan logo. It's an annual fee.
I think, you know, just as a consumer, I pay for that, and I don't think it's because I'm a Texan. I just know it's going to be spicier, and probably taste better, and be fresher. At least that's what the brand means to me when I pull it off the shelf.
Now, I noticed you didn't put a balance sheet up. What kind of capital is gonna be needed to get this thing going?
So one of the great parts about working with NCI, your backer, is that they have a $263 million operating budget. So the capital is definitely there.
Are they gonna set aside some? 'Cause they're gonna-
Yes.
Yeah, so we already have a $25,000 operating budget. That was to get the PR done, to get the initial cases of salsa and get these test runs. Now that we start to ramp up, we're actually going to present this to NCI soon. And the only thing that they would have to do is honestly bring the cases from the co-packer to their facilities for the first 2 years, and that's just to fan them out at the facilities.
And what's the shelf life?
A year. It's 1 year. So it doesn't have to be refrigerated either. So it's
Well, and after open, it's got to be refrigerated though.
right.
So,
After open.
I believe it's 2 weeks.
I thought it was 30 days.
30 days.
I thought it was 30 days after you open it. And then, oh, well, then there's also it's a trick question. Trick.
Dude.
Do you guys have any planning to do in-store sampling or events like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've already talked with Cody, Central Market, and we've talked with him about the possibility of doing it. You can't do it at Central Market until you're on their shelves. We've actually spoke with the manager of another HEB in the area, and he said that he has seen vendors come in that aren't even on the shelves selling and doing demos from a booth. So it's absolutely one of those marketing efforts that we're going to be making.
That's a good idea. That works really well.
Yeah.
No. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Why did y'all decide to pull out of the centers in year 3?
The reason we're pulling out of the centers is because the person we've spoken with who already has a product in Central Market said that it's good to, when you're establishing those relationships with retailers, to demonstrate to them that you're really going for that channel instead of sticking with, sort of, in other words, you don't want to compete with the retailers that your product is in. And so by stepping off and not doing it at the centers, you say, hey, it's all for you. We're trying to really prove out in your customer base that it's going to be received well. And at that point, we'll want to ramp up and go into all of your HEB stores. And so by pulling out, we're saying we're here for you. You know?
Any other questions, David?
You were also talking about doing some social media promotions. Is that going to be mainly under the Salsa brand or under the NCI brand? Or like, what's the strategy for that kind of look like to make people buy more salsa?
I'm sure it'll be a combination of both. It's a lot. I'm sure Jessica answered that question pretty well. They're doing their social media, but yeah, I think it'll sort of be both. And whether or not there's going to be like a different web page for salsa or a different Facebook for salsa, that's really not determined yet. I think it'd be a good idea though. Yeah.
How much of this is going to be the story and people wanting to do this because of the cause, and how much of it do you think is going to be for the quality of the product?
The hope of it is it's a catalyst. So once you try the salsa, you're going to buy it again. It's a really nice salsa. And that's feedback we've had from over 70 people so far. It's
So
a great salsa.
you test marketed up to that 70?
At the Ripley, at the 75th anniversary is at the table where we're letting people test it and they have the opportunity to buy it as well. So,
And there's been taste tests through Riviana Food Group and at NCI that have been conducted. I'm not sure the number on that, but both of them were received positively. And we've tested it here at our places of work, and basically everyone's giving positive reactions to it. So.
Have you thought about actually taking the salsa to competitions and entering in competitions? Because if you've got a gold medal,
So
Texas has what they call the Texas Salsa Congress, and it's out of San Antonio.
And
it's
so,
where they
in like
pretty-
Rights of Texas, they have it right on
They
the
pretty
label.
much have a competition up and down the Riverwalk, and if you guys could place in that, that's a huge thing you could draw in there.
it's another great idea. Thank you.
There's a salad dressing brand. I've seen that. It's called Newman's.
They also,
My mom told me who he is. But I don't know.
You know the video, really are.
That's so mean.
But like the whole reason why, like my feeling about it is just because of the cherry pecans. and if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be buying it. And so, if whatever you do, I would say you should focus on that because you'll bring a lot more consumers from that angle.
All right, that's time. Very good job.
And if anybody would like to just give us some quick feedback, we had a white label up there, and this is the black label. They were deciding which ones to go with, and I think they've already decided. But which label do you like more?
So you're gonna like target different ethnic groups with different labels?
Anybody have an actual response? If so, just let us know.
Actual response.
Let us know in the future. So we can
How you like to?